All right, Ricketron time is on time. Welcome everyone to VeeamON 25. I'm really excited. This is good. Good crowd? Yeah. Sorry, I'm like a resident hype man. I'm joined by Kirsten Stoner.
Hi, everyone.
Got Pavel from Product Management.
Yeah, you might have seen me on the previous session, I think.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
We also got Emily.
Hello, everybody.
Good cross-section of the product team to talk about a deeper dive, and we've got so much to talk about. It is right before lunch. Try not to go over. You know I'm genetically programmed to be on time, but this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about v13, and we're going to work through the platform. So Veeam Data Platform is backup and replication, the orchestrator, and VeeamON. You're going to see some new words here, like the cockpit. We'll talk about that here in a second. Kirsten's going to drive a lot of the VeeamON, and Emily, the orchestrator. Pavel and I will really drive a lot of the BNR, backup and replication. So that's where we're going to start. And as you know, the cool kids do use Veeam, so you all are in the right place. I think Anton set it up perfect. Is Anton in the room? Because, you know, well, it is recorded, might as well.
I don't think he'd raise his hand if he wasn't.
Well, that's true, because if I ask him that, he's going to be like, well, where's Rick going with that? I think what Anton set up yesterday was fantastic for a long journey. And I know Hannes is over here. Him and I are talking at the end of the day today about the hardened repository ISO. And to put this all together, where we are with this software appliance and then the hardened repository really started at VeeamON in 22, and we finally got to this really cool milestone. But I think also when we talk about the new capabilities and the sequencing, I want to do something additional in this content for this session that we didn't do in the general sessions the 2 days before. And we'll start first with these 4 new capabilities, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this, Pavel. So the instant recovery to Azure, you know, we've always had these platform conversions and stuff like that. So like when we have the backup data, it really becomes pretty easy to go to different targets. You know, tell us a little bit from the product team of how we do platform conversion.
Well, it depends on the operating system, actually, but it doesn't matter what the source of the backup is. If you take Linux platform, we don't care if it's a VM on KVM platform or on Proxmox or it's like physical machine, because we store backups in our backup file like as a disk images, and there's no difference which platform to convert, to send it to cloud or to another hypervisor. And it's getting especially easier in the v13 with instant recovery, because as you remember from yesterday, instant recovery sometimes works even better than the actual restore.
Yeah, indeed. I learned a long time ago in 2011 when we added Hyper-V support, Anton was really clear. The only difference is the source, the target logic, you know, this type of stuff. There's a really beautiful thing that comes from that backup file format. And so taking instant recovery to Azure, what I showed up there, there's some really interesting behind the scenes stuff. HA was high availability was one of the things that Emily showed. Emily, you want to talk a little bit more about how we got to that?
Yeah, it saved me for the main stage.
Hey,
absolutely.
I was filling. Did any of you notice that? Yeah. I'm like waiting for her to give me the thumbs up, but
I was going to be cheeky and actually try to cause a failure, and I did cause a real one. So no, so high availability, right? So something brand new coming with version 13 via the Veeam software appliance. And the benefit there is obviously not only being able to have that secondary standby server ready to go in a moment's notice, but then also having the replication happen underneath that layer, leveraging PostgreSQL service. So essentially for a lot of customers, right, if we looked at how we set up HA maybe today with 12.3 is you go and you deploy a separate VBR server, you take the config backup, maybe you're pointing that config backup to the drive letter of that separate standby server, and you still have to go through that entire process of importing in your backups. And for some customers, I think even this feature was actually developed because one user said it was taking over 24 hours to do that update because they had such a mass amount of data when it came to like their backup policies, replication policies, et cetera. So this just completely takes it to the next level of now you don't have to wait in order to import that data. You have a fully running, fully functioning Veeam backup server ready to go at a moment's notice, and you don't even have to worry about things like bandwidth issues or latency or anything like that. because they built in a caching system in which we could actually store those replicas into cache and then send it over the network when there's more bandwidth available. So, kind of get the best of both worlds when it comes to HA.
Indeed. And one thing I do want to highlight is this is going to be an area for Veeam Data Platform where we're going to start to see some separation. And so I use this phrase on Linux. What I mean by that is that the HA capability will be only available for the Veeam software appliance consumption model. Now, there still will be that Windows installable, but I want to highlight this is something that's only going to exist. And I know, Pavel, you do a lot with the Linux stuff. There's probably a lot of beyond the database reasons. I know this isn't your particular thing, but I do want to highlight anything you want to add to the Linux side of that.
Not really. It just, you need to remember that it's not automatic, it's just on demand, that you specifically say in the console that, okay, I want to switch over now, and then it will happen. It's not like you start update and the switchover happens automatically. So for the first version of HA, it's kind of a manual process. And there's no load balancing or anything like that. It's just passive active.
And only 2 nodes.
Yeah, only 2
it's not a stretch cluster or anything yet, magical. And let me say it another way, it won't be implemented on the Windows Veeam Backup and Replication Server, make that super clear. Emily talked a little bit about the built-in upgrader. I'm really a big fan of shared technology here at Veeam. This is taking a little bit about what we've done from our cloud appliances, a little bit different approach as well. We're going to go into a demo of the beta that Anton talked about here in a second. That's a big one, right? I'm really excited to really get those updates automatically deployed to the Veeam software appliance, the VSA. And Emily, again, you want to talk a little bit about the enhanced RBAC?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, Veeam has had some type of RBAC capabilities for quite some time now, and now we're just taking it another step forward, right? Being able to really delineate what it is that users can be doing within the console itself, and actually limiting it to, what applications can they actually access, from a backup side to where are they storing that data, as well as where can they actually restore that data. So if we want to talk about GRC, and if you're a customer that's in here that has multiple sites and data can't leave a specific country or a specific region, you can really lock that down with these new enhancements with role-based access.
One thing I want to highlight is that this list of 4, these are new capabilities inside of what will be the next full release of Veeam Data Platform, Backup and Replication. The Veeam software appliance is a consumption model, right? It's how you would consume that. Minus HA in the upgrader, so 1 and 4 will be implemented both on Windows and the Veeam software appliance. Now, I know there was a lot of interest in that yesterday, so I want to actually just take you to a really important point in time in a quick demo. So let me show you what I'm doing first of all. I have downloaded that beta that Anton spoke about yesterday. When you get this beta, it says, do you want to install either Enterprise Manager or Veeam Backup and Replication? And I said yes to BNR. I skipped Enterprise Manager. And when you get to that point, it doesn't ask you any questions yet, and you hit this reboot. And once you hit this reboot, this is kind of the interesting part that I want to show you. And I'm fumbling around, hoping I didn't lose my phone because I did. Well, maybe I left it in the studio.
Maybe we'll let somebody in the audience go ahead and scan the QR code.
Well, yeah, if anybody wants to be my victim here. But basically, I've installed, I got to run back to that other studio. Oh no, it's right here, it's a clock. Because I'm so paranoid about being on time, anyways. Once you say yes to that, this is the first boot. Go ahead and boot Rocky Linux, okay? And there's some rescue stuff as well. And a big hat tip over here to Hannes Kasparek and the QA team as well to get to some milestones to this. But once you say yes to the Veeam software appliance, you get to this point where you answer the questions that matter: the name, the network, the time, the password. And I was actually super impressed with how easy this is. And part of the beta, which, as Anton said, you can talk to your sales team to see if they can support you with it. I will say it is case by case because any of our systems engineers who support that First of all, they in some ways are going to learn it with you. Any systems engineers in here probably would agree with me there. First step is the EULA. I'm going to say yes to that.
Good start.
And then it's going to give me a name, which is, I will say I have DHCP in this environment and it's resolved to an entry. I'll go with that, even though it's not a nested via ESXi. Actually, I'll just change it because I might have new problems. So anyways, I'm just going to put it as a name here, VSA2. So we give that host name. Really good time to think about your DNS, okay? Now, I mentioned that there is DHCP on this network, but there is I won't say primitive, but there's a configurable set of the basics, I'm sure some of you, especially in these early steps, you're going to find things that don't work for what you want. I'm going to go with that 238 DHCP. It's good enough for this. I'm going to take the recommended time. You can't change it, but I do recommend the time to be set and allow it to get access to that.
Excuse me, Rick.
Yeah.
Did you know you could just enter through the whole wizard? Just with
You can?
Yeah.
Well, how? That's no fun. Okay, now you can't enter on this one because this is probably the most important part, and I've messed this up, so I want to tell you so that you don't mess it up. This password doesn't ask you to re-enter it. This is kind of important. So if you're gonna, have you messed it up?
Yep.
Yep. And it has to be a disastig password. Okay, so it kind of hurts. So here's my trick. As I said in the last session, I am very bad in the lab as a neighbor and as a tenant, but I do recommend that when you do this, I use space, and that works, by the way. But I do recommend you hit show. It's hard to show and tell at the same time, guys. Come on. But this actually counts as a disastig password, so I just put a space in between everything. But I highly recommend that during this appliance setup, you capture or at least confirm your password.
Keep in mind that's Veeam host administrator, right? I mean, we're
Veeam admin.
Taking two separate pieces, right? Again, we're abstracting actually the delivery of this as an appliance, so you can actually go in and make any of your host configurations, updates, anything of that nature. It's not to be confused with your day-to-day backup administration, creating policies, performing resources.
Do not scan this.
Two separate ones. I think I already saw someone scan it.
Yeah, that's okay. You can't do anything with it. I'm going to destroy it by today. But I use the Authly app, and I'm going to pair this one-time password. And keep in mind, the way we've implemented our OTP, our one-time password, is that we don't require the internet for it. We require accurate time, but we don't require the internet to validate this. So I'm going to put this in real quick, and give me a number. 0088561, and I'm still having fun. And so basically that one-time password is created for Veeam admin, and much like the way Emily mentioned in the general session, we have a similar type of thing for the security officer. That gets a password as well. Best practice not making it the same.
These are both enabled and they're both mandatory to have too. Right, so you can't skip past this. Don't try to rush through it because you need a Veeam SO to be able to actually approve any other additional accounts that you create in the host management console. So just keep that in mind.
And you know what, friends? That's all you do. Then you're at a blank BNR console. You go to the web page, download the client, or use the web client that Emily showed. This will reboot, and you are GTG. You are good to go. So I wanted to show you that. That's kind of the other half of the announcement that Anton had yesterday. But I also think it's super important that we talk about the timing of what's coming next. So I want to share some milestones, and I want to be super clear on this. Announced yesterday was the beta. I wasn't sure if it was going to be today or yesterday, but it was yesterday. The second point here is that once that beta is done, the language we had as of Sunday was that it will be a supported preview. I think that's still going to be the case. Do you think that's the case? Yeah, okay. So it's a supported preview of 13.00. I'm going to be the first to tell you, there's some things that aren't in there. There won't be upgrade and migrate from your existing. This 13.0.0, the supported preview, is intended for new areas of your infrastructure to be deployed in. It's not going to do everything either. We'll play with the beta, see what's final, but it's important to know that 13.0.0 is like a stepping stone. And trust me, anybody from Veeam support doesn't want us to force this upon people on this type of release. Okay, so we'll have to be super clear on that, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. But within about a quarter, so 3 months, we'll get to the next milestone. That will have, the target is to have some parity of Windows installable and the VSA with an update. That's when it's going to start getting pretty interesting, right? Full set of capabilities minus the HA, minus the built-in updater. And then eventually, as Niraj and team and Anton as well indicated, consume this as a service in Veeam Data Cloud. Did I get most of that right enough, Pavel?
Yep, it's spot on.
Okay, there we go. See, I listen. But I want to also let you know that to help make that easy, some of you may have seen the V11, V12 upgrade centers. We're going to have a V13 upgrade center. This will be the link, but it's not live yet. So I'll probably turn it on soon. I was going to turn it on today, but I didn't. But this will be the link. It does exist. It's just like you don't have access to it. Anybody use the upgrade center by chance in the past? Have seen them? No. Just so you know, what do? I pull up information about double checking your licensing. I gather all the help center docs, but I also go talk to support and see what's going good and what do we want to communicate. Kirsten's helped me with some videos on it. Going through the upgrade, I'm also going to include some migration, so that's coming soon on the Community Hub. Cool. So that's VNR, and I want to turn it over to Kirsten to talk about VeeamON, and sorry I went over 2 minutes, Kirsten.
It's all good. Cool. So within Veeam Data Platform, you know, it's more than just backup. It's monitoring, analytics, and recovery orchestration. So now we're just going to talk about some of the new stuff that's coming in monitoring and analytics. And really with this release, it really focused on increased scalability to provide you with better performance and also to be able to handle more data at scale. So I kind of took this slide from Rick and really highlighted the top 4 new capabilities, in my opinion, that VeeamON is going to bring to the platform. So we have the agent-based data collection and the new reporting database. So this is going to make data collection more efficient. And then also with the new reporting database, it's going to be able to generate reports faster for you and also handle that data at scale, right? Then we have the new interactive reporting engine. So along with the reporting database, now you're going to be able to interact with reports more and have more granular filtering there as well. A new web client design, so a much needed facelift to VeeamON. So it's going to be able to be, it's going to look cool, it's going to be more intuitive and increase usability. And then expanded analytics across the Veeam Data Platform, so more integration with Veeam Backup and Replication. So let's start off talking about the agent-based data collection. So this is basically going to be deployed on your Veeam Backup servers. So VeeamON will push the agent to the backup server, and it's going to collect data on performance, metrics, and logs. And you can manage this within the web client itself. This is the same agent that is going to power Veeam Intelligent Diagnostics and remediation actions. So it's not like you're going to have more than one agent on your backup server. It's still going to be just one agent. And this is really going to make sure that you get better performance. And it's also going to be a more secure data collection because you're not going to have to go and open any unnecessary ports. You're just really just deploying that agent on the backup server. Next, we have the reporting database. So this is going to act as a data warehouse. So really going to store all that data within this PostgreSQL database. And it's going to help when you think about, you know, historical analysis and really generating reports over long periods of time. So this is also going to ease the resource consumption on the Microsoft SQL database, so VeeamON monitoring database. And so this is really what it's going to look like here. So if we think about the VeeamON server, right, we'll start there. You add in your backup and replication servers. So in some organizations, you might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You add them into VeeamON. VeeamON will automatically deploy that agent-based data collector, right? And then from there, it will start collecting that data, and it will go to the VeeamON SQL database and the Postgres reporting database. So as a user, right, you are, wanting to run this report. You're thinking, okay, let's run this report. So before, depending on how much data you want to collect over that period of time, it might just be taking a while, right? You might be sitting there for 5, 6, 10 minutes or whatnot. So now as a user, you'll go, okay, I want to run this report. It will send the request to the VeeamON server. The VeeamON server will take that reporting database, and then it will be super fast, and you'll be like, holy smokes, I have this report now in way faster time than I did before. So some really cool stuff. And so with this reporting database, it's going to really enhance the reporting engine as well. So if we think about this new interactive reporting engine, it's going to be JavaScript based with an HTML5 experience. So when you open up the web client, you're actually going to be greeted with the Veeam Threat Center, but when you go to the report catalog, it will have all the different icons for the reports there. And there'll be a little preview, a picture of what you can expect the report to look like. This is just a static image. It's not based on your data. It's just to show you what it's going to look like. You're going to be able to filter reports based on tags. So, for example, if you are running Nutanix AHV and you really want to find out all those reports that you can utilize in VeeamON to show you data on your Nutanix AHV data protection, you can simply sort by the Nutanix AHV tag, and it will filter in all those reports that you can use. So you won't necessarily have to go to the Help Center and search through the reports. It will right there be there for you, really increasing usability of these reports and making that data right there for you. You're still going to have the PDF and CSV report options. And then the report builder is just going to be reimagined, right? So if you're going to have all this extra filtering and scoping of the reports, you're going to be able to save that and then rerun that, so you don't always have to go back and refilter, regroup, and reorganize the report the way you want it. So for example, this is the immutable workloads report. So you can already see, I've already run this report within the VeeamON web client. So you can already see it looks different, right? Like, what do you guys think? Do you think it looks different? Do you think it looks the same?
I think it looks different.
A lot of red.
Okay, well, this is a lab environment, and we have a lot of work to do to make sure we
that all, Rick?
Secure.
My lab.
So it is a lot of red. I wish it was more green, right? So this is really going to be the image you're going to see, right? And then at the top, you can actually go through different views. So this is just going to the summary view, and then you can flip to the report data. And then you still have on there, the summary, the total workloads, all those data still available to you. So then if I switch over to the report data, I can actually see that this is already kind of reorganized a little bit differently with the grouping, the immutable, the mutable, and also taking a look at the different workloads and their restore points. So I can actually, filter based on group or section, or anything like that. And then if we keep going a little bit further, I can drill down into the immutable group, and I can see all the workloads that I have immutability set up for and the restore points there. So some really cool stuff with the reporting engine, and I'm definitely going to have to do a video or something, a demo for YouTube to show you just how you can work it, which will be really exciting as well. So this is the new web client design. So it's a more modern, intuitive design. There's going to be 2 new dashboards that are included, the alarms overview dashboard and a dedicated intelligent diagnostics dashboard. So if you're unfamiliar with intelligent diagnostics, it's just a way that VeeamON finds common misconfiguration errors and can, identify them to you so you can go ahead and fix them. And this could be anything from, upgrading to the latest version or even installing a security patch. And then the alarms overview dashboard is shown here as well. So you can get an overview of your alarm status, what workloads are experiencing these alarms, and top issues by day. And you can see there's also integrated here on the side the platform health anomalies dashboard or widget as well. And then lastly, expanded analytics in the Veeam Data Platform. So this is some really cool stuff because if you're running, Veeam Data Platform Advanced or even Veeam Data Platform Premium, right? Once you add VBR to your VeeamON server, you will get access to all these capabilities within Veeam Backup and Replication itself. So you're going to be able to view and generate reports right through Veeam Backup and Replication. So in this view, you can see how they have those images partnered with the reports. So that's kind of the same view that will be in the web client as well. So you can kind of see what the report's going to look like and get an idea of the outcome when you run that report. So you'll be able to run these reports right through Veeam Backup and Replication. And then you're going to be able to also analyze some charts and performance through the different interactive views. So getting access to more dashboards, more data, and more capabilities through B&R, so you don't necessarily have to open up different windows. So this is really going to help just increase, and make sure you meet compliance requirements, increase observability, and help remediate issues in real time. So now that we talked a little bit more about VeeamON and what's coming, let's hand it over to Emily to talk recovery orchestration.
Well, but first I changed the plan. So thank you, KMS1. Good stuff. What I want to do is just kind of show everybody the end result from that VSA install. And Emily had some of this up in the general session, but I know it was really, well, it's a big screen, but it was kind of hard to see. But this takes you, and I don't know, Pavel, do you want to talk about this UI, just what this is, right? It gives us the URL, the DNS name. And then also I should highlight in the beta, there's two ISOs. One big one, which is this, and then two small ones, which are the VHR. Where's Hannes? Hannes, I saw you.
He's right there.
Right there. Okay. Hannes and I are going to talk about that later, and I'm going to do the other side of this with those types of ISOs, but as well as proxies, which is baller. Pavel, what is this in Linux term? I know you're kind of super Linux guy.
This is just like local UI that you get when you install VBR or hardened repo or proxy appliance. This is like a basic management console you can use to control important things such as shell access, web access. You can control network from here as well. So certain capabilities are not available from the web. You can only use them through this console.
Yeah, and then we use this thing called the cockpit or the host management UI. That's this 10.443 port, and then the other one is the standard HTTPS. All right, I just wanted to let that go. And back to your regular scheduled program with Orchestrator.
Yeah, thanks. So Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, again, part of the Veeam Data Platform. Obviously, there's been a lot of new updates that have came with Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, specifically when we start looking at the latest update, which happened in February, which was adding on new support for Hyper-V environments. So essentially, not only was Orchestrator built to help customers be able to orchestrate at scale your recovery windows when you're looking at failing over to a disaster recovery site or recovering from a cyber incident, Orchestrator is really built leveraging VeeamON to build in documentation so that way it makes it easier for you to be able to test, validate, and build those documented recovery plans. Now, the Hyper-V added integration in February allows us to take that platform migration conversation one more step forward. So if we start thinking about, okay, we're in a VMware environment and we're looking at testing at scale, recovering to Hyper-V. We can leverage Orchestrator to build our runbook, go ahead and throw our virtual machines that we want to have be tested and recovered into a Hyper-V environment, and that could all be done and set up pretty seamlessly as well as validated to ensure that it's going to actually work. The Veeam orchestration server itself consists of some embedded components. You have Veeam Backup and Replication, the full server. It's fully embedded. This actually allows us to get PowerShell commandlets, which is how we talk to your on-prem VBR server to communicate and send those requests of, let's go ahead and take these backups or take these replicas and put them inside of a recovery plan, as well as being able to leverage things like virtual labs, spin those up inside of a data lab to actually schedule, test, and validate the recovery process. And then the VeeamON server, of course, which is going to be that backbone of being able to identify our categorizations of the data. What do our resources look like? CPU, RAM, that secondary data center, and then overall reporting structure. Essentially, your recovery orchestrator is going to allow you to plan for recovery and validate those plans. And as you can see here, this is what the UI looks like for those of you that have never logged in or tested Veeam Recovery Orchestrator. So you have this administration task that's going to walk you through all the steps that you need to have configured in order to set up a proper recovery process. So when we start looking at supported versions and operations, this is a nice kind of quick overview of what you can do with Veeam Recovery Orchestrator. So essentially, we started off with supporting vSphere first. Obviously, you can recover vSphere to vSphere. We could also take VMware workloads, recover them to Hyper-V. We could also take VMware workloads, recover those into Microsoft Azure. So if we're looking at doing a cloud lift and shift, or maybe you have to leverage Azure because you no longer have access to your on-prem data center, know that you can leverage Microsoft Azure as a secondary DR location, build out some recovery plans, test those, and Veeam will actually do the conversion of a VMware ESXi virtual machine, converting that to an Azure VM in your own subscription, as well as being able to leverage things like quarantine networks. So that way, if we want to test, validate, or run any scans across that data before we move it into your production network, that could all be accomplished. On top of that, there is a way that we can integrate with your storage arrays. So HPE, NetApp, Lenovo, talk about not even taking backups or replicas, just leveraging what's already running from the snapshots themselves. So if you have snap mirrors running between two NetApp arrays, take Orchestrator, point it to it. It can start building recovery plans just with SnapMirror itself. You don't need to have a backup. You don't need to have a replica. We could just orchestrate the failovers from those storage arrays without having to do much else. So it's actually really cool technology that you can leverage that pretty quick and seamlessly. When we dive into Hyper-V, Hyper-V for now is going to be recovery directly to itself. So there's not going to be an option for you to do a cross-back. So taking Hyper-V and converting to VMware, that is something we would look to add in the future. But you can at least take any of your Hyper-V backups and run tests for those build recovery plans to go ahead and validate the recovery of those back to a Hyper-V server. And then, of course, we have Veeam agents. So if you have physical servers, Windows and Linux, you want to go ahead and recover those to vSphere virtual machines or Azure VMs, we could do that as well. So there's two types that we want to look at from a planned steps portion of this. So essentially, you'll have an opportunity to actually leverage these pre-planned steps that are already built into Orchestrator. But also, I have customers that I work with that are actually going through a full migration process of taking thousands of virtual machines within vSphere and recovering those into Hyper-V. So we're able to create them some custom steps that were added in for them specifically because they had some unique differences inside of their environment. One customer, for example, they wanted to be able to remove VMware tools once they went ahead and they recovered into the Hyper-V environment. So they had a script that would run, that would go ahead and execute once they went through the recovery process, so that way they didn't have to do that manually. I have another customer that's leveraging it when it came to setting IPs. And then on top of that, we could also leverage this if we want to do some additional checks when we're looking at it from a security aspect. Let's run YARA rules against the data, make sure that it's clean before we recover into our new environment. So this is just a good example of what you can kind of see based off of that. And this is going to be your recovery documentation that you get. So there's 4 different types of reports. You have your plan definition of what is it that you actually built, right? So here is all of my information. This is my vCenter server. This is going to be my backup server. These are all the steps that I want it to take for each individual virtual machines. That's what you see with that demo VeeamON, right? Restore the VM, check for heartbeat, ping on the network, check the port, and then actually rename that virtual machine. So this is all part of that full documentation. And if you want to talk about auditing and compliance and being able to approve your incident response plans or cyber recovery plans, Orchestrator is just going to make it so much more easier. I can't tell you how many times I've sat with customers and watched them do screenshots of click here, okay, let me paste that into Word, write a few things, okay, click here, paste that into Word, write a few things. No, this is essentially pre-built for you, and once this is already ready to go, all you have to do is click run, and it'll go ahead and execute. Plan readiness check is actually something very unique because we don't actually have to run the plan to verify that it's going to work. Orchestrator is actually going to go through the back-end process and validate that we have access to the underlying systems. So if you have backup jobs that had failed the night before, we'll automatically tell you, you already are going to miss your SLAs if you set it to 24 hours, right? So we'll be able to identify that early and often. If somebody went in and changed a password, or if storage is no longer available, we're going to be able to identify that early so that way you know every day, if you need to go and execute this restore plan, you have that fully validated within the last 24 hours or however often you want to run. It's a lightweight check, just does all the checking in the back end. And then scheduling that to run in a data lab, as well as a full execution report. That's what it looks like once it runs, so you get a nice little green check bar showing that everything is ready to go. We have our pre-planned steps. We're meeting our RPOs. We're meeting our RTOs. We could also validate in here that the last backup, we didn't identify any malware because we can go and check those malware flags from Veeam Backup and Replication. So if Veeam has actually flagged anything with suspicious or malicious, Orchestrator will also pick that up. But then also ad hoc, the same thing. If we go to actually execute a job, we could actually run AV scans, UR rules on those data sets themselves. And we could even talk back to Veeam Backup and Replication and say, during a restore process, we ran this UR rule. We flagged this machine of finding XYZ. Go ahead and flag that back into VBR so that way users know that this machine has some type of malicious or suspicious attributes on it. That's what it looks like to execute some tests. So you can do a quick test. So essentially just go validate all the overall surroundings to perform the VM recovery, as well as doing a full test, go verify all my backups. Everything's ready to go, including our recovery location. And again, this could all be scheduled to run. And on top of that, if anybody in here is running CDP, we can also test and validate your CDP replicas for you. So something very unique within Veeam Recovery Orchestrator to be able to do this with zero impact, as well as getting that access to the full reports available. This is a recorded demo, but of course we are going to run out of time because I think it's about 10 minutes long. But essentially this at least will cover the quick pieces of this. I'm just going to show that I'm going to be recovering back into a Hyper-V environment. So you could see here, we could just go ahead and add in our Hyper-V infrastructure. We can go ahead and create what this recovery plan is going to actually look like. So we go ahead and give it a name, whatever we like. And then once we do that, we could go ahead and set up what are our inventory groups. So what are we looking to recover? Is it a CDP? Is it going to cloud? Is it leveraging these backups? And then what do these available groups look like? Are we taking them from vSphere? Are we taking them from Hyper-V? Are these agents? And so we have this categorization of being able to pull all of this data and go ahead and mark it up inside of the group itself. And then once we hit next, we'll go ahead and select our recovery locations. I made a mistake here because I didn't want to use that tag. So I'm just showing some different options in here. And we can go ahead and look at that recovery location, whether it's going to be to my Hyper-V cluster or if we're going to be recovering back to another location itself. Now, here's all of our steps. These steps come automatically built in. So you get access to them already ready to go with the product install. But if you want to add in your own custom steps, you're more than happy to. And then we can set your target RTOs and RPOs. I got asked this, I believe on Monday. Somebody wanted to know, well, how much time or how much effort is actually put into the Recovery Orchestrator product? Really not much at all. As long as you know what your SLAs are going to be, you know what your RTOs have been defined, your RPOs have been defined by the business, this makes it very easy for you to go forward with how you want to set up Orchestrator. If you don't do that, if you haven't ran a business impact analysis, if you don't know what your backups look like, then that's going to be probably the biggest piece of information that a lot of customers I see struggle with, because you're having to now identify that all on the fly before you can get to actually creating your recovery plans. So this is just showing that plan was created. We're going to go ahead and execute that to run. And so you would kind of see that all inside of here. So it's just pulling the most recent restore point, but I can even go back to further. And then there's that option to go ahead and validate or pull from any malware flags, as well as even stop the recovery if we find anything that we don't want to execute, right? Completely either disconnect it from the network or just cancel the entire process. So this would go ahead and process in the background. I think I've just updated it. And we'll fast forward. There's all the great documentation, pretty rich. You'll find everything there. And if I just go back, you can see that restore was successfully completed and it was fully migrated. So with Orchestrator, and then there's one other piece in here that we can add, which is clean room. So this is actually pretty cool. So if you do have a separate clean room environment that's been set up, essentially we can actually take those backups, replicate them into the clean room, have Orchestrator already stood up and running. We can import in those backup jobs, and we can start a recovery process or a run book that's based off of how we want to execute for a clean recovery to validate that, you know, we're not going to have any restores or any mistakes during a cyber incident. So you could pre-build all of your plans, set up your YAR rule files, update all of your AV definitions, and then have that run and be executed within your clean room. Pretty straightforward, really cool to be able to use. So the Orchestrator then, so this is part of the Veeam Community Hub. So if you have questions, if you want to know how you could get started, you go to Veeam Community. Essentially, we have a whole user group that's all set up there. We have actual super users that are building some other really neat things outside of what's currently available within product. So I actually have one gentleman that's using Orchestrator to orchestrate restores leveraging Kasten for Kubernetes. And then we also have some that are showing how we can do orchestration with AWS. So there's some additional super users and availability that's out there. From a version 13 perspective, we're going to be able to support the new Veeam backup and replication server on Linux, as well as being able to support multi-factor authorization on the server itself. And then on the future standpoint, we're looking at adding on Nutanix AHV for that next hypervisor platform in which Orchestrator will support.
Well, fantastic, Emily. Yeah, I shamelessly plug the Community Hub just because we have some good stuff there. And if anybody doesn't know about that, please check it out. I have wanted to kind of get in front of a couple of things. One, well, actually, Shiza, this is the wrong slide. But basically,
Germans
I do.
in the audience.
Yeah, sorry, there are Germans in the room. One thing I'll just highlight is there are some things that Anton got in front of everybody. I'm going to switch it up real quick about some upcoming deprecated features. And this is really important because, like, for example, reversed incremental is going away. There's some platform support capabilities that are going away. I have two QR codes here. They point to the deprecated capabilities of backup and replication and the planned deprecated platform support. The short links go to the same place as the QR code. So I just want to get those in front of you. Hannes, is Igor here? Yep. Emily and I have to go somewhere hot and quick for something else. Can you two come up and help with any questions? I know Pavel and Kirsten are going to get bum rushed with questions, but we gotta ghost up. We're gonna if you have any questions, come on up here. We won't have time to get through them all. And we got some Vanguards and Legends in the room. But if you got any more questions, just come on up. Patrick Benson, you're a smart one. You can come up too. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of VeeamON.